Hello all you freedom-loving people. The FDA revoked emergency authorization for COVID vaccines. The DOJ is investigating if the FBI tried to cover for Comey and Brennan by hiding documents in burn bags. And are there U.S. secret operations in Greenland? Okay, let's get into it. Today, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. issued two major announcements. The first announcement was about the COVID-19 vaccines. RFK posted on X saying that he has kept all of the promises that he made. So what were those promises? RFK Jr. said that he promised to end COVID vaccine mandates and to keep vaccines available for those who want them, especially vulnerable groups. RFK Jr. also said that he promised to require placebo-controlled trials and to end emergency use authorization for COVID vaccines. And he wrote that all of these four promises had been achieved. Today, the FDA revoked emergency use authorizations and instead granted full marketing approval for those at higher risk. The FDA approved Pfizer for older adults as well as children as young as 5 years of age. The FDA also approved Moderna for ages 6 months and up, and it approved Novavax for ages 12 and up. RFK noted that these vaccines are available for all patients who choose them after consulting with their doctors. In other words, if you're a healthy adult or child who is not in those categories, the vaccine is no longer FDA approved for you. But doctors could still provide vaccines off-label to those people. And in his second announcement, RFK Jr., along with Education Secretary Linda McMahon, called on medical schools to provide nutrition education for students. The data indicates that many medical students receive less than 2 hours of nutrition instruction.
Recent data reveals a critical disconnect. Although all medical schools claim to include nutrition in their curricula, most medical students report receiving no formal nutrition education throughout their entire training. This leads to a troubling reality. Most medical students recognize nutrition as necessary. Nearly all medical residents are asked to counsel patients about nutrition, but fewer than a quarter of practicing physicians feel adequately prepared to provide nutrition advice. We can reverse the chronic disease epidemic simply by changing our diets and lifestyles. But to do that, we need nutrition to be a basic part of every doctor's training.
So RFK and McMahon directed American medical organizations to file plans by September 8th with the government that outline how nutrition education is provided and whether it meets national standards. RFK Jr. said that reforms could save hundreds of billions of dollars in healthcare costs and could prevent millions of chronic diseases. Today, Denmark's main broadcaster, DR, reported that the Danish government and security sources believe that 3 Americans with connections to the Trump administration have been carrying out secret influence operations in Greenland. DR reported that it could not confirm whether the men were acting independently or under orders, and their names were not verified. Based on the report, one of those people allegedly compiled a list of U.S.-friendly Greenlanders. That one man also allegedly collected names of people who are opposed to President Trump and got locals to point out cases that could be used to cast Denmark in a bad light in American media. Reportedly, 2 other men tried to nurture contacts with politicians, businessmen, and the locals. In response, the Danish foreign minister summoned the top U.S. diplomat in Denmark and said that interference in the relationship between Greenland and Denmark is unacceptable. Foreign Minister Lars Rasmussen said in a statement that Denmark knows that foreign actors continue to show interest in Greenland and its position within the Kingdom of Denmark. Rasmussen said, "It is therefore not surprising if we experience outside attempts to influence the future of the kingdom in the time ahead." Rasmussen stressed that cooperation between Denmark and Greenland is close and based on mutual trust. Yesterday, the New York Times reported a new leak that claimed the Justice Department is investigating whether FBI officials, during and after the Biden administration, tried to hide or destroy documents in order to protect key players. The new inquiry reportedly aims to find out if senior FBI officials tried to cover up alleged misconduct by former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan. The senior FBI officials might have done this by hiding classified documents after they left the government. Now the investigation is looking into the conduct of former FBI Deputy Director Paul Abbate. Abbate was a veteran agent who served in the role throughout the Biden administration, and he stepped down on January 20th when President Trump was sworn into office. Investigators also appear to be investigating thousands of Russiagate documents that were kept in burn bags in secret FBI rooms. FBI Director Kash Patel revealed these burn bags back in July, and yesterday President Trump announced that there are some other burn bags with hidden documents. This time the burn bags were uncovered by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard.
And you've also found many bags of information. I think they call them burn bags. They're supposed to be burned and they didn't get burned, having to do with how corrupt the 2020 election was. And when will that all come out?
Mr. President, I will be the first to brief you once we have that information collected. But you're right, we are finding documents literally tucked away in the back of safes in random offices in these bags and in other areas, which again speaks to the intent of those who are trying to hide the truth from the American people and trying to cover up the politicization that was led by people like John Brennan and James Clapper and others that have caused really immeasurable harm to the American people and to our country.
Great job. Thank you. We look forward to hearing it. The public looks forward. Thank you very much.
Gabbard's statement yesterday followed her April 10th cabinet meeting remarks, where she said that electronic voting systems are vulnerable to hacking.
We're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this, election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
Yesterday, a federal judge refused to drop charges against Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugen. Judge Dugen is accused of helping an undocumented migrant evade federal agents earlier this year. Dugen was arrested in April after allegedly helping Eduardo Flores Ruiz avoid plainclothes immigration and customs enforcement agents who were at the courthouse to serve him a warrant. Prosecutors allege that Judge Dugen helped Flores Ruiz and his attorney exit her courtroom through a back door on April 18th. This allegedly happened when Judge Dugen learned that the ICE agents were in the building to arrest him. Her lawyers argued that she was entitled to judicial immunity for her official acts. They also said that the federal government had overstepped its authority by arresting and charging her. Her lawyers also claimed that the charges violate the 10th Amendment and the principle of separation of powers. And yesterday, U.S. District Judge Lynn Edelman ruled on the motion. Judge Edelman said, ultimately, as the Supreme Court has stated, the official seeking absolute immunity bears the burden of showing that such immunity is justified for the function in question. Edelman also wrote that there's no basis for granting immunity simply because some of the allegations in the indictment describe conduct that could be considered part of a judge's job. Edelman has scheduled a hearing about Dugen's motion for September 3rd. Over the past week, Cracker Barrel has made headlines after its logo redesign. The company changed its logo on August 18th and introduced a simplified and modern design which removed the old-timer figure that was leaning against a barrel. Then Cracker Barrel faced heavy backlash from the public. Julie Fels-Massino, the Cracker Barrel CEO, said that the public loved the new logo and redesign of the restaurant.
Honestly, the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive that people like what we're doing. I'll give you another soundbite. I actually happened to be in Orlando last week with all of our managers. We bring them together and every other year. And the number one question that I got asked, Michael, was, how can I get a remodel? When can I get a remodel? How do I get on the list?
Oh, really?
So because the feedback and the buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team members. They want to work in a wonderful restaurant. So we're doing everything for our guests and our team members.
Then on August 21st, the market value of Cracker Barrel dropped $94 million when the company's stock fell dramatically. In just one day, the company lost about 7.2% in value. Yesterday, President Trump also said that Cracker Barrel should return to its old logo. He said Cracker Barrel should go back to the old logo, admit a mistake based on customer response, the ultimate poll, and manage the company better than ever before. They got $1 billion worth of free publicity if they play their cards right. Very tricky to do, but a great opportunity. Then on the same day, the company announced that they would bring back their old logo. Cracker Barrel said in a statement on X, "We thank our guests for sharing your voices and love for Cracker Barrel. We said we would listen, and we have. Our new logo is going away, and our old timer will remain." The additional 25% tariff on India by the Trump administration kicked in at midnight on Tuesday. Total tariffs on many imports are now 50%. So let's quickly remember how things got here and what the tariffs mean now. Back in April, we reported that President Trump imposed a 26% tariff on Indian goods. Months later, it was revised to 25%. Then on August 6, President Trump ordered an additional 25% tariff on India. This was because President Trump said that India imports oil from Russia directly or indirectly. Since the Ukraine war, India has become a key trading partner of Russia. India imported $52 billion of crude oil from Russia last year. That's about 1/3 of the Russian exports. Actually, discounts because of the sanctions fuel the surge in the amount that India purchases. So, the Trump administration said that India's purchase of Russian oil helps to fund the war in Ukraine. On August 4th, President Trump said that India uses cheap Russian oil to resell on the open market for big profits. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro also backed President Trump. On August 21st, Navarro said that India doesn't appear to want to recognize its role in the bloodshed. In response, India dismissed these criticisms and called them unjustified and unreasonable. India also said that the purchases are to give its 1.5 billion people affordable energy. So what will the tariffs mean now? New tariffs are expected to disrupt the more than $200 billion in annual U.S.-India trade. Actually, a modest drop in imports of Indian goods was already observed in the latest data. According to the Bureau of Economics Analysis in June, imports declined by 3% from the previous month, but they were up 29% year over year. And the August Global Shipping Report highlighted a nearly 14% surge in shipments from India, which showed how companies were preparing for the increased tariffs. The overall forecast suggested that India's economy expanded by 6.6% in the second quarter, which was down from the 7.4% growth rate in the first 3 months of 2025. According to Joe Maher, who is an assistant economist at Capital Economics, a 50% tariff would be large enough to have a material impact on gross domestic product growth for India. Maher said, if it sticks, the resulting drop in exports to the U.S. could reduce GDP growth by 0.8% points both this year and next. It seems that Indian leaders are using the U.S. trade fight to push reforms like changes to the goods and services tax. They may also use the situation and try to strengthen ties with China. Prime Minister Modi will meet Xi Jinping this week at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. This will be Modi's first visit to China in 7 years. And for the U.S., even before the increase of tariffs on India, yesterday, Scott Bessent said that tariff revenue has already hit $30 billion in August, and it could soar past $500 billion a year to help cut the deficit.
And I think we're going to see a bigger jump from August to September. So I think we could be on our way well over $500 billion, towards the $1 trillion number. This administration, your administration, has made a meaningful dent in the budget deficit. The average budget deficit during this term is 26% less than the last 12 months under Biden. And even the CBO, and we don't agree with CBO on everything, as you said, last Friday, on a summer Friday, had to admit that they believe over the next 10 years, the budget deficit will be $4 trillion lower than they had previously scored. $4 trillion, $3.3 trillion of tariff income, $700 billion of lower interest costs, and I would expect that number could go up from here.
So let's return to our talk on stable coins. USDT does have advantages that traditional financial instruments lack. It's simple to use, it has fast transactions, low cost, and most importantly, it's anonymous. But it also has flaws that mainstream society cannot tolerate. It lacks transparency, it lacks regulation, and it can be viewed as being non-compliant. So Wall Street elites created a legitimate and compliant US dollar pegged stablecoin, USDC. However, strangely enough, USDC has not replaced USDT as intended. So why is that? The factors at play here are multifaceted. First, USDC's legal compliance, transparency, and rigorous auditing inherently limit its appeal among certain user groups. And it is centralized. It's not on a blockchain like Stellar that is decentralized. So it is viewed as being more like a central bank digital currency. As we mentioned earlier, early uses of USDT were predominantly in areas explicitly prohibited by law, such as online gambling, money laundering, and drug trafficking. Naturally, these individuals would have little interest in USDC's good student characteristics. As the world's most traded cryptocurrency, USDT is particularly popular on Asian exchanges. A notable characteristic of Asian cryptocurrency investors is that many of them are indifferent to whether cryptocurrencies will become mainstream in the future financial landscape or whether they are a bubble. They view cryptocurrencies purely as a form of gambling, a tool to funnel other people's money into their own pockets. The rapid rise in Bitcoin prices has shown them a new path to wealth, one that promises greater profits than investing in China's real estate. Consequently, many started registering companies to issue their own cryptocurrencies. These new virtual currencies don't require mining like Bitcoin. The value of these cryptocurrencies does not depend on mining or on any tangible backing behind it, but rather on how many people are willing to buy and use it. Therefore, they directly issue virtual currencies that require no mining and have no security or collateral in physical assets or fiat currency like stable coins. Their theory is that if enough people accept and use it, then it has value. They also cite the example of primitive societies using shells as currency. Shells on the beach had no inherent value, but primitive people endowed them with monetary attributes. Everyone accepted this, and thus the worthless shells became currency with value. Another group within Asia's cryptocurrency sphere isn't seeking to strike it rich through virtual currencies. They simply want to stash their wealth somewhere. This group is the officials of the Chinese Communist Party. They embezzled vast sums of money throughout their careers. After Xi Jinping took office, he launched an anti-corruption campaign. So many officials were removed from their posts for corruption. But they weren't afraid of being removed from office. What they feared was having their assets confiscated. However, China maintains a highly stringent foreign exchange control system. It is extremely difficult for them to transfer illicit funds overseas. Thus, virtual currencies present an ideal solution for transferring assets. It perfectly resolves this issue. The number of corrupt officials may not be particularly huge, but the scale of their illicit funds is enormous. Take one example. In 2015, Ma Chao-kun, the general manager of the Beidaihe Water Supply Corporation in the resort city of Beidaihe near Beijing. He was prosecuted for embezzlement and misappropriation of public funds. A total of 37 kilograms of gold was seized from his home. He also owned 68 properties under his name. Beidaihe is a small town with a population of only 140,000. In Hubei province, where population density is extremely high, it can only be considered a district within a third-tier city. A general manager of the water supply company in such a small place could embezzle such a large amount of wealth. So we can imagine how much wealth officials in more important positions could embezzle. There are well over 100,000 corrupt officials like this in China. The amount of capital they pour into cryptocurrency is no small matter. For them, USDT is ultimately backed by the US dollar. Even in the worst times, it maintains 70% reserves. This makes it far more reliable than those virtual currencies that are hastily created or invested in by Chinese individuals. So naturally, they feel comfortable using a stable coin. Here, we should also mention an intriguing paradox. It's the trust paradox. It means that something may seem untrustworthy, yet because everyone accepts it, it becomes a de facto reality. For instance, take China's real estate market, which we've discussed multiple times in our show. Over the past 2 decades, Chinese people have believed that housing prices would only rise and never fall. Logically, we know this conclusion is flawed because as housing prices increase, more builders will construct homes. As more and more homes are built, once supply exceeds demand, housing prices will inevitably decline. However, due to the Chinese people's superstitious belief in the unfounded theory that property prices never fall, more and more people are buying homes, and they are often stretching their finances to the limit. Consequently, demand for housing continues to rise. As a result, property prices in China have indeed kept climbing. At its peak, Shanghai's housing prices actually surpassed those in Manhattan, New York. Yet, Shanghai residents had an average disposable income of just $12,600, while New York City's average wage was nearly $70,000, which is 6 times that of Shanghai's residents. So clearly, Shanghai's housing prices were extremely unreasonable. But under those certain unique circumstances, this phenomenon did indeed exist for a period of time. Of course, such irrationality is unsustainable. The current situation speaks for itself. Similarly, for USDT, it remains to be seen how far a kingdom built on faith-based deposits can go. But USDC has its own niche. Traditional cryptocurrency users dislike USDC's transparency. Yet, mainstream individuals who previously shied away from cryptocurrencies due to their gray-tinged nature now warmly embrace the compliant and legal USDC. Mainstream players and traditional financial institutions initially adopted a wait-and-see approach toward virtual currencies. Gradually, they realized this emerging phenomenon showed no signs of fading away, but instead appeared to be gaining momentum. Consequently, they decided to stake their claim in this space. Compared to traditional virtual currency users, they have shown a greater preference for USDC. USDC is dominant in the decentralized exchanges, or DEXs. In 2024, USDC issuance on Solana reached $9 billion, while USDT issuance stood at only $2 billion. And USDC has become the mainstream stablecoin for meme coin trading. The growth and popularity of stablecoins is certainly also due to the recent launch of the virtual currency by President Trump's family. World Liberty Financial is a DeFi platform that was launched in 2024 by President Trump and his family, and the platform stablecoin USD1 was launched in 2025. USD1 is backed by U.S. Treasuries, cash, and other cash equivalents on a one-to-one basis, and USD1 is managed by a company called BitGo. The coin operates on the Ethereum, Binance, and Tron blockchains and is suspected to join Stellar. This has driven a significant influx of capital and has attracted a large number of new users. Decentralized exchanges are trading platforms that are built on blockchain technology. Their defining feature is their absence of intermediaries and the requirement for users to entrust their funds to the platform. Users manage their own funds and execute transactions independently. All trades are completely transparent on the blockchain. There is no black box operation nor any human intervention. The rise of Solana and the popularity of USDC reveal a split in the stablecoin market. USDT dominates traditional cryptocurrency exchanges, while USDC is making significant strides in emerging markets. On June 5th of this year, Circle listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The stock was priced at $31. On the first day of trading, it triggered 2 circuit breakers. The share price surged nearly tenfold from the offering price on its debut, making it one of the most closely watched IPOs of the year. Circle CEO Jeremy Allaire's ambitions extend beyond going public. He aims to establish USDC as a digital dollar and even replace some functions of the traditional dollar. He had even proposed making USDC a testing ground for the Fed's digital currency. But with the passing of the new legislation with the Genius Act, there will not be a central bank digital currency issued by the Fed. In 2023, Circle applied for a national bank charter aiming to transform into a regulated digital asset bank and compete with the traditional banking system. Allaire's policies have yielded positive results over the years. In 2021, Visa announced support for cross-border payments and settlements using USDC, marking a milestone in traditional finance embracing stable coins. Currently, USDC is the preferred choice for institutional investors in the United States and Europe. However, reality soon taught USDC enthusiasts a lesson. In 2023, Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, unexpectedly collapsed. USDC's $3.3 billion reserves were trapped within it. Upon news of the collapse, USDC's price plummeted to 88 cents. This triggered panic across the entire market. Even the stablecoin once deemed the safest proved not to be eternally secure. Circle acted swiftly, though. Coordinating with regulators and banks, it restored funds within 48 hours. The token price subsequently returned to normal. This incident exposed a harsh reality. Even the most compliant stablecoins cannot remain immune to shocks within the financial system. For the average person, they still have questions like, what's the point of stablecoins in the real world? Or are stablecoins a scam? For the average person, issues that directly impact daily life are likely more pressing. So we'll continue addressing these topics in tomorrow's show. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.